And thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us once again across the Louisiana plain, where we are elevating the cause of constitutional conservatism in Louisiana, elevating the cause of constitutional conservative citizens across the state, and rapidly now draining the Louisiana swamp. My name is Chris.
And I'm Danielle, and this is the State of Freedom, brought to you by freedom-loving Louisiana First Patriots. Hello, State of Freedom warriors. Thank you for inviting us to be part of your day. We are so grateful for you. You're the best listening family anyone could possibly hope for, and we are only here because of your encouragement, your prayers, and your financial support. If you are looking for a way to support us, to advertise with us, or to send us feedback, please visit our website at freedomstate.us. We'd really appreciate it if you'd also help us get the word out and spread the reach of the State of Freedom. Please like the show on whatever platform you listen to us, subscribe to it, and share it. You can share short clips instead of the full episodes from our YouTube and Rumble channels, and links to those are always in the show notes and over on freedomstate.us. Thanks for tuning in for the final installment of our election integrity conversation with Matt Meck.
Matt, we're just kind of blown away by everything that you're involved in and all that you're doing. I'm not sure exactly where you get your energy, but would you send some of it down to Louisiana?
Coffee. I'd love to, and I tell you, you've got great patriots down there. I mean, Tommy Waller is a fellow Marine brother. He's the president of Center for Security Policy, and I get the energy from the folks in the coalition. I mean, David Serpa, who's running for Congress in the 39th district, a former Marine like myself who was running there. We've got folks like Trent Christensen running for AG of Utah, Sheila Walker, who's doing amazing stuff in Hawaii. These people are just impress me. J.D. Byrd, who's going to be running for Congress in Utah. These people just amaze the heck out of me because they're just standing up and they're not controllable, right? They're not motivated to, I go here and I go here. And no, they're not motivated by money. They carry Lake. I love, she said at one of our Arizona forums in 2022 before the election, Laura Logan had moderated that one as well. And Carrie said something I just resonated with me. I just want to, like, when she was running for governor, I just want to get in, do the job, and go back home, right? And just be a mom again. And I just want to go back to my life.
Yeah. Exactly, because she doesn't have, like you said, she's not controllable. She's not serving any other masters. She wants to serve the people.
And I tell you, I think, as far as the Gateway Pundit puts it out, but there's how the NRSC did that through Jeff DeWitt to Carrie. You're going to see the NRCC try to do a similar thing in a state to funnel money to a candidate through a county GOP, and a stalwart state GOP chair, one of those I mentioned previously in this conversation, stood up and said, ain't happening. We're not playing by those old rules. Because we want to be a party of the people, and all of them, an increasing number of them, it's growing, want to make sure, at least in the GOP side, and I hope to God it's happening on the Democrat side in the state parties, is that you'll never, even if you get somebody who's not a person of good intention as your state party chair, whether you're a Democrat or Republican, that the mechanism in place that the people own the party. The people are in control of the party, not some private groups, not wealthy families who reminds me of the Disney movie Pollyanna, right? When that one lady who was very wealthy, who would go to Carl Malden, who was the preacher, and say, I think you should mention this in the sermon today and this. And he finally woke up because Haley Mills, who played Pollyanna, she said, but does anybody own God? Anybody own the church? No. Nobody owns we the people. We the people are sovereign in this country, not. And as President Malou down there in Argentina said, I love what he said, and I think he has an economics background. Talked about derivatives in the financial world and how derivatives are not as valuable as that which they're derived from. And he said, and ergo politicians, you're derivatives of we the people. You're not as valuable as the people. We shouldn't be in awe of a governor, of a president, of a senator. They should be in all of us.
Yeah.
Absolutely, they should be in awe of us. And John F. Kennedy, of course, reminded us, and I say it often, that we, the people, are the boss. We are supreme, and we will get the government that we demand and we deserve. And we all have to remember that.
We do. And I guess I'll have to ask you on that note, Matt, do you think we will get what we deserve come November?
I think so. I mean, I don't think enough has been done, certainly by the RNC, to ensure transparent and verifiable elections. But what I think is that not Lenin's. I'm not a fan of Lenin, but he had a quote that I think is germane. Quantity has a quality all its own. Get out and vote in numbers. I think Jack Posobiec said at one point, Trump is polling about above the margin of fraud. Knowing the fraud exists, and we haven't done everything we needed to do to correct that prior to 2024. Right now, it's kind of like in football. I know LSU. God, I hated you guys playing as a Gator, but when the run's coming, you load the box, right? You load the box and you overwhelm them so the runner can't get through. When you load that box on the defense, overwhelm the system with people. And I would say, please, I disagree with Charlie Kirk on this and the RNC. Do not vote early and by mail, because that's a feedback mechanism that allows them to know what they need, because they're going to see the numbers all through that time, even though maybe they're not supposed to count until the polls close. Vote in person on election day, in person. And please, state party chairs of both parties, federal case determined, you can control the primaries for your private organization in your state. The Democrat is a private organization. The GOP is a private organization. For God's sakes, caucus, go to precinct, voter ID, paper ballot. Give the people, whether you're a Democrat or Republican, you're purple, you're blue, I don't care. Have them have confidence that it's being done so their vote actually means something. And even if that other person wins and I don't like them, at least I know it was a fair fight,
Absolutely. That just gets us back to our original point. The process and the fairness of the process is important to all of us, and it's really more important than outcomes. The integrity of the process is more important than electoral outcomes, because electoral outcomes can be changed, but if the process is corrupted, then we don't have any freedom left. We don't have a voice left. That's what we have to keep in mind always. So I am far more disappointed and far more alarmed by the corruption of the process than I am about particular election results. And I'm sure that you understand what I mean when I say that, Matt.
Yes. And again, somebody who's a friend who's been in this domain for 23 years, Steve Hertzberg, who conducted, through Election Science Institute, the Cuyahoga County audit in 2006, which I think that's still the gold standard. The Arizona audit had a lot of issues going on there that I think have raised a lot of questions. But from his work, what he saw, and then he saw it migrating into the financial world. And you look at folks who study this, statisticians and mathematicians, looking at the voting patterns you see from 2020 and 2022 when the election results are coming in. Anybody, Ed Solomon, Dr. Kathy Willis there in your state, she worked with Ed Solomon, who I think is found.
Great person. Kathy Willis is just an outstanding patriot.
She was down at AmFest. We saw her down at AmFest in Phoenix. It was great to see her. And I sent a picture to Tommy Waller because I know they're related somehow by marriage. Like, hey, Tommy, look who's here. Where are you? But what folks who understand data analysis say is like, this is all indicative of as you talked about with the J6, Chris, a predetermined outcome, and they're injecting inputs into the system, by the way, which the average person has no clue how it works, because you go in and it's all machines, and as Laura Logan said, it's ones and zeros. Does anybody speak your ones and zeros? Even if you did, and you demand access to the system as a voter, you can't get access to the system because it's proprietary. You have the power. You have the power to control, as General Flynn says, control what you can control. Do not vote early. Do not vote by mail. Go in person on election day. Do not give them the feedback mechanism. And this is cybernetics, and this is what George Soros did in 2001. Right? He created cybernetic systems, or system for cybernetic control, feedback and control mechanisms. Facebook is that. Twitter's that. I mean, I won't go into great details, but you think Facebook just created by the Winklevoss twins and Zuckerberg? No. Look at DARPA. Look at how it came out of there, and look at how, hey, I don't need a warrant to find out what Danielle's doing. She's going to post everything about her life on Facebook. I can just go get it from Facebook. I don't have to get a warrant. We allowed ourselves to be manipulated. We have to wake up and realize, control what you can control, and demand. Don't stop demanding to your governor, to your Secretary of State. You want a system that is transparent and verifiable. And your system as it exists right now, as I have studied it in Louisiana, again, with no paper trail, at least like Georgia's got, at least something, you don't have a transparent or verifiable system for a Democrat or a Republican.
Yeah, we don't. We don't. We have a black box, and we have to just hope for the best. I went into the voting booth probably, I don't know, maybe a year ago. It was just for some local elections. And I asked the poll workers, I mean, are these machines, those garbage machines that I've been reading about online? And they said, yeah. And I said, well, what can we do about it? They said, well, we can't do anything about it from here. You just have to push the button and hope for the best. We're not going to change your vote. I was like, oh gosh.
And look at in the Curling versus Raffensperger case there we were talking about earlier in Georgia, in Judge Tuttenberg's case, the courtroom. You had, I forget the name of the gentleman, but he was brought up as a witness for the defense, which is the state in this case, Raffensperger. And I think he was the best witness for the prosecution that they could have had, because when
That's
asked
right.
questions like, do risk limiting audits work? He said no, right? So people who are experts in this field are telling you the system is vulnerable. It doesn't work. And I would highly recommend, and I know Mark, talk with John Scanlon and Randy Russ and Brandon Trosh-Claire, is bring Mark Cook out there. He's got the Hand Count Roadshow. He's going all through Arizona right now. He was in Texas before. He was all up through Utah. He's in Arizona right now. He and Shelby Bush executed the hand count of the Maricopa Republican Committee a couple weeks ago. They did over 2,500 ballots in less than an hour, hand counted. And the system of hand counting is not as important as the fact that it is transparent, right? They had cameras everywhere, so you could see all the time what was going on. For someone to manipulate that system would be very difficult. And he could come out there, and it's a great. We've had him at several locations we've done in combination with 5GW. We're glad to do it out there in your state as well. One day is Mark, the next day is a 5GW perspective, and people, their eyes open up when he just shows you the vulnerabilities of the system and all of the silos of registration, poll books, tabulation, and reporting. And why have we outsourced every component of that to a third party we have no control over? And
Exactly.
Economics perspective, you have Dominion. So what are they in Colorado and Canada? Why send hundreds of millions of dollars out of your state to someplace else? People say, well, the hand count's going to cost. No, it's not going to cost as much as machines. And you go to any VFW, you'll get veterans who want to serve again. You give them free coffee and donuts, they'll hand count for you.
Of course they will.
Bring the money back, even if it's going to cost money. Not going to cost as much as the machine. Bring that money back into your community, at your precinct, at your county. Give the money to your own damn people.
Yeah, I agree.
That's my economic argument for the thing.
Yeah. Even if you print it on the fanciest paper, it's going to be a lot cheaper than dealing with those machines.
What, over $100 million of machines? And that doesn't even include the maintenance of the machines. No matter what we do, we could hire 20 commissioners for every precinct in the state of Louisiana for every election, and it would be cheaper than that. It's truly unbelievable. And ultimately, whatever the cost is, it's worth the cost because in order to secure our voice. Because if our votes are not reliable and if our intent is not accurately reflected in that voting booth, then we don't have a republic anymore. And it doesn't really matter what else we do if our voices, when it comes to how and who we elect to represent us, if it doesn't count. That's why it's so important.
And as far as transparency, it was 2022 election, Washoe County, which is where Reno is. Tucker was even on Tucker's show before he got kicked off of Fox. Imagine this, right? Imagine your child telling you this, and want him or her for you to believe them, right? The room where the central collection of the ballots to be counted in Washoe County, again up the northern part of Nevada where Reno is, the cameras just in that room went off for 7 hours. But don't worry, everything's fine. Never happened before, and the cameras around the building are good, so we're all fine. And then after that, that's when Jim Marchand started losing, Adam Laxalt started losing for Senate, Segal Chada started losing for AG. I won't get to Marine Corps language, but they feed us BS and they want us to accept it. And I think what you're seeing now, Chris and Danielle, is the people, irrespective of party, what they maybe voted for before, of the melanin in their skin, of their gender, are beginning to regurgitate this crap that the establishment is trying to feed us.
Yeah. And I think they are hopefully going to do so at the polls this November. We have our primary for the Republican Party primary coming up in March. So we'll see Trump will win here, but it'll be very interesting to see how that election is run and what's coming out of Nancy Landry's office, really, Chris, in the next couple of weeks and months with the machines. But
yeah, we're putting together on behalf of my group some correspondence to Nancy Landry, our Secretary of State, really reemphasizing the acute vulnerabilities of these machines and just urging her to move in a different direction. She's already expressed her desire to move for the machines. But you know what? It's not over until it's over. And we're going to continue to push hard. And at a minimum, we're going to make sure that nobody is able to claim ignorance of the facts or ignorance of the reality of the situation. We can put the information out there and make strong recommendations. And, at that point, my conscience is clear.
If at all possible, and I'll send you Mark Cook's cell number. Have him come out, if possible, and talk to your Secretary of State or their staff. He's talked to Mac Warner before. Mac's the Secretary of State of West Virginia. And I think their eyes will be open to the vulnerability because Mark does it in a way that's very methodical. It's not emotional. It's just the facts. And I think if they're objective, they'll leave there with a pause. And everywhere Mark has been, where he might have folks sometimes who are openly hostile to you guys are election deniers. At a minimum, they leave neutral, right? Because what he'll do, like some folks will want to get in and kind of hoard the microphone and say, "Sir, hey, please let other folks speak. I will stay here and answer as long as you want. I'll answer every question you have," right? So that's this engaging in a dialogue, right? Instead of you're mad, you're terrible, you're a Nazi, you're a fascist. We talk. We're Americans, damn it. We talk and we reason things out. It's how we've survived for so long. And this is not a good time in our country, but we've overcome previous bad times. And he has had journalists show up who were opposed to what he was going to be talking about, and they leave there going, "Oh my God, my eyes are open. How can I help you?" I think that would be very beneficial if you could, and I'll give you his number, to have him come out there and talk, even if it has to be done via Zoom or something. I think it would be very productive. And it's probably she won't have the time, maybe your staff. It's about a 3-hour time period to go through it in detail with Q&A. But I think it would be very educational for the folks in leadership of your state, and also for any group that might want it out there. And I encourage you or them, if they're interested, go to handcountroadshow.org and then take a look. And I think that's would be something that'd be beneficial for the citizens of Louisiana.
Make sure that you send us his number, Matt.
I will.
Yeah, because 3 hours is not too much of her time that's being paid for by the citizens before she spends $100 million of the citizens' money.
Exactly. And he'll show, certainly for Dominion, information that shows they're knowingly being incorrect in what they're saying. But
it really applies to all of them, though, Matt. I think
it does. But it was certainly from Dominion, because he was involved as one of the forensic investigators in the Mesa County 123 reports, and you see as an example this Microsoft SQL server that is on the startup screen for Dominion. That should not be on. You talk to any IT expert, it allows you backdoor access into the machine and easily flip votes and hide it. And that's why Tina needs to be made an example of, because they uncovered it. The before and after image, they uncovered what they did. And I dare say it's happening in your state and others. A lot of states, a lot of counties that are red were like, oh, well, there's problems in that state, but not this state because we voted for Trump. It doesn't mean you don't have a vulnerable system. It just means, for whatever reason, the powers that be in that state or that county wanted Trump to win. But is Trump winning, as an example, by the numbers he should be? Is it accurate? Or are they peeling votes?
That's right.
To raise the
That's right. And Matt, yes, and Matt, even assuming they're not shaving votes off incrementally in each election, even assuming that that's not happening, it's like, I tell people, it's like, just because no one has broken into your house yet and stolen all of your things, does that mean that you don't want to lock your doors at night to your house just because you're lucky enough that no one yet has broken in? Of course not. If it's a vulnerable system, we need to do something about it before something like that happens. So it's just not, oh, well, we've never had any kind of fraud in Louisiana. We've never had any problem with the machines. Well, even assuming that's the case, that doesn't mean that you don't want to secure it, because it could happen.
It could happen. And for folks, yeah, and most of us, I was one of them. I figured most of my votes were absentee because I was in the military. It wasn't in my home state or county. And I would presume that some very well-meaning civil servant was taken and doing their job, what they're supposed to do. And I tell folks who sometimes don't want to believe that the government could lie to you. I remember Bill Murray said, when the government lies to you, it's politics. When you lie to the government, it's a felony.
Oh, gosh.
Look at the Gulf of Tonkin incident. Remember that, folks who are old enough, the Vietnam War, the Gulf of Tonkin incident was supposedly that incident where the North Vietnamese shot on one of our ships. And it was Admiral Morrison, reported Admiral Morrison, by the way, was the father of Jim Morrison of the Doors. But we find now that event never occurred. It was just created, the narrative, to get us in to Vietnam. 56,000 dead Americans. How many dead South Vietnamese, North Vietnamese, Cambodians, Laotians, Allied forces? I tell people, wake up and smell the coffee. Use the gray matter between your ears. Ask why 5 times. And remember, you are a citizen, not a subject. And the government works for you. You don't work for the government.
I'm excited to share a fantastic opportunity for State of Freedom listeners who are interested in investing in precious metals or even starting a home-based business in the precious metals industry. Metal Stacks is a precious metals collectors club where you can buy your metals at the best prices on the market, actual dealer cost. They are beating the big sites. They have no credit card fees and no minimums. If you're just interested in purchasing metals at a great price, visit metalstacks.com/dwalker. Get to shopping, that helps me out. I get the commission. You can also refer people to Metal Stacks for an additional income. If you're interested in learning about the referral business aspect of Metal Stacks, email me directly at danielle@freedomstate.us for more information.
I'll finish with what I believe Thomas Paine said that sort of sums up much of what we said today, which is that government at its very best is a necessary evil, and at its worst is an intolerable one. And we have to remember that and always be skeptical of our government and take nothing at face value. Matt, it's just the way I look at it.
One last tidbit I always like to kind of leave in a positive note. Again, things we never really told about. First off, think about it. Why is the 1780s not really wrote about in our country's history? It's kind of like a decade of lack of attention. George Washington actually used to say this. Up through Truman said this. And you can win a bar joke or bar bet. Who was the first president of the United States? And George Washington would always say this person was the first president of the United States. It was John Hanson. John Hanson was the first president of the United States and Congress assembled. The Articles of Confederation. He was the first president of the United States under the Articles of Confederation. As Laura said, Laura Logan, and I just read it because she's just texted me, so I'm seeing her name pop up. She goes, think of the stuff we're just learning about in history that is not what we thought. Imagine what we were never even informed about. But why don't we remember John Hanson? And I remember some years ago seeing Hidden Figures, right? The black ladies who were responsible for us getting to the moon. Why didn't we know about that in the 1960s, right? There was chauvinism and racism, I get it. But my God, what don't we know? What don't we know about these machines yet that we don't know?
It's scary that the whitewashing of history. What do we not yet know about the machines? Yes, very, very true.
Yep. So it takes strong people, citizens, electing strong state governments and state representatives. And remember, even though that your state legislature no longer picks your senators, which, by the way, I think I shared this with you when Scalia asked Dick Salisbury, who was where he'd go hunting in Texas, and the Salisbury family there made their fortune in oil and gas in the Midland area. Dick Salisbury asked Scalia, will we ever get our republic back? And Scalia said, no, not until we go back to the legislatures picking our senators. Because right now you have no body in the Congress that represent the states. The people are represented in both bodies. You're supposed to have the state represented in the Senate and the people represented in the House. And we have part of the erosion of our republic is that the states, remember, the states originally, those senators, when you look at the founding of the country, they actually went to call them ambassadors, right? The ambassador from the sovereign state of Georgia, the ambassador from the sovereign state of New York to that federal level. We have to get back to that. Your senators, I would think something Mac Warner said, is go back to how many times do your senators actually talk and confer with your legislature? Go back to that founding.
Hardly ever. Hardly ever. And that's why, and until we get back to that, our state legislatures simply are going to have to assert their constitutional authority to nullify federal tyranny. And they do have the constitutional authority, and we are working hard here in Louisiana to solidify that. And I couldn't agree with you more, Matt. We must have strong state legislatures, strong attorneys general, and strong governors to fight back against this federal overreach and international overreach as well.
Amen. And I, even if it's somebody that we might agree with, even if Trump were to go out, if he gets in and he goes off the reservation, no, we're holding you accountable. That's not the federal system, not the federalism we're supposed to have.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Matt, so much for your time today. We really appreciate you. We appreciate the work that you've been doing so hard. And we will want to keep getting you back between now and the election to get updates on how things are developing, especially after this surprise drops on or about the 15th of this month. We're very much looking forward to that. How can people follow the work that your organization is doing, that the network is doing, and how can they get involved?
Easiest right now is hit me up at matt@unauthorized.one. And I would say especially if there are candidates out there, constitutionalist, America First candidates, let us know. We want to help you. We'll certainly, if they're from Louisiana, bounce them off you guys. Okay, they say they're this, or is this the accurate representation of what they're asserting? And then also, if folks would like training, just not to conduct fifth generation warfare, but to be aware of it and not fall into the traps they want you to, we'll do that. I'll get you Mark Cook's number. Any election ecosystem education training, we'll be glad to do that too. But Matt at unauthorized.one certainly is the best way to get a hold of me.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you both for what you do.
Thank you, Matt. God bless you. God bless you, and we will talk to you soon, sir. Have a great day.
You too. God bless.
God bless. Chris, he is just a wealth of knowledge. I feel like he knows a lot about a lot that he can't even say.
Oh, I couldn't agree with you more. And you could kind of tell that there are certain things that he's kind of holding close to his vest. But he's so right about having in our states strong state legislatures in particular, which, obviously LeCag and the state of freedom are fighting for, to make sure that our state legislatures are asserting their constitutional authority.
Yeah, we covered so much ground today. I mean, from some of the latest news in election integrity coming out at the state level in Georgia, in Michigan, in Nevada, and other places. I'm very, very excited and hopeful that we will continue to see this. There's that saying, drip, drip, flood, and I think that's where we are in this election integrity thing. I really think that the scales are tipping. People are waking up. People are tired of being viewed as subjects, as Matt said, and they are ready to stand up and I think have the government respond to them instead of have the government tell them what to do.
Yes, the dam indeed will burst, and I hope that it bursts all over the poisonous, cancerous leadership in Washington, D.C., and I hope that all of their nefarious activities to destroy our freedom are exposed, because they must be, and I just believe that the people's voice, Danielle, is about to roar. I think you're right. I think we're very, very close.
Yeah, and we will absolutely take him up on reaching out to Mark Cook, because I just think it's Nancy Landry's duty as the Secretary of State to hear what may be wrong with the machines, to give a fair hearing to any objections to the machines whenever they are at such a great cost, and they represent the machines literally represent being the arbiter of our voice as the people of Louisiana. So
they are.
There's no other way to say, I mean, I guess there's other ways to say it, but they are what tells the story of what the people are saying. And, I don't think the people's voice needs to be sent through that kind of black tunnel anymore.
Not anymore, and not with all of the glaring deficiencies. We're talking about a fundamental right, and if we don't have that, if we don't have security in our vote, we don't have anything. And so I agree with you. She does have an obligation to listen with an open mind, because the evidence is definitely there. Well, Danielle, I am so thankful to be with you today. As always, it always seems like it flies by, but I'm thankful to have you. I'm thankful to share a platform with you, and I am very, very deeply thankful for all of our supporters and listeners to the State of Freedom, and I encourage our listeners to continue to share, to continue to subscribe, so that we can continue to get great voices like Matt Meck and other great voices in and outside the state of Louisiana onto our platform to spread freedom throughout our state and country.
Yes, a very big thank you to the listeners who have supported us so far. We are so grateful. And please, if you are considering supporting us, you can do that at freedomstate.us, or you can write a check to our P.O. Box, make it out to the State of Freedom, and the P.O. Box is 861 Berg, Louisiana, 70343. That's B-O-U-R-G, Louisiana. And of course, Chris LeCag has already been at the legislature one day this week, and I know that you will be there again soon should a hearing arise that is going to impact the citizens. So you can give to LeCag and support our work there by going to www.lecag.org and the P.O. Box, Chris.
P.O. Box 64952, Baton Rouge, Louisiana, 70896. We are the eyes, the ears, and the voice of ordinary Louisiana citizens. As I said yesterday in my testimony when I was down there, we do not represent any big special interest groups, any big special interest donors. We are supported and funded by ordinary Louisiana citizens who deserve a voice in the state legislature. and it's a privilege to serve you, and it's a privilege to have your support. And it's also a privilege to know that each day, with courage and discipline and the grace of Almighty God, we will take another step to preserve the state of freedom in Louisiana.
Amen. Thanks, Chris.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to The State of Freedom. To stay on top of all the calls to action we mentioned today, just check out the show notes for the episode. If you'd like to support the show financially, visit our website at freedomstate.us. If you'd prefer to give by mail, you can send a check to The State of Freedom, LLC, at P.O. Box 861, Berg, Louisiana 70343. If you own a business in Louisiana and are interested in supporting our show by advertising, please email us at info@freedomstate.us. To get involved with Louisiana Citizen Advocacy Group, visit lacag.org, LACAG.org, or email Chris at chris@lacag.org. If you're enjoying the podcast, please subscribe and share it. Give us a 5-star rating in the reviews. Thanks again, everybody. We'll see you next time.